Hello, this is Opera Unbound, a podcast that breaks the barriers between opera singers and the audience. We will cover the process, challenges, stereotypes, and inspirations associated with opera.
If you like the content that we're putting out and you'd love to see more, make sure you subscribe to our channel as well as share it with all your friends.
We are back after a hiatus. Our last episode was interviews with our cast of Elixir of Love. If you haven't checked that out, you know where to find it on pretty much every major streaming platform, or if you want to head to our Patreon page, you can find it there. Today, we are talking about the entire process of putting on a production and the things that went well and the challenges that we faced. First, we're just going to talk about the general organization, what sort of things you have to do to put on a production. Obviously, you have to pick the show that you're doing. We did that prior to any other step we took. This was a brainchild that came out of the pandemic. When it first started, we were like, okay, we started a podcast, and then we were like, you know what? We've done some shows together. We can make this happen, and we wanted to pick something that had a small cast so that we could do it, right? We didn't want to make too big of a goal when it comes to funding and paying people fairly. You know, we weren't going to try and put on, like, the Magic Flute.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine trying to do that.
Yeah, definitely not.
Although I was part of a production during the Omicron wave of the Magic Flute, and wow. It happened. We had the performances. I actually don't think anyone in the cast got COVID. Our conductor got COVID like the first day. And then I think one of our stage managers had it. But anyways, that tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So, organizing the show. The biggest challenge was really finding a time that everybody could rehearse. I think. We wanted to be as flexible as we could with everyone.
Yeah, totally. And because we're dealing with local singers, and this is a pro and a con of dealing with local singers, is that when you, for example, like Rachel's Magic Flute that she just mentioned, that was in Eugene, Oregon. Okay. Yep. So she can't always do all the normal job things in Eugene the same way that she was if she was local. So we had to, find places to rehearse that was convenient for everybody, because Seattle's like a lot of cities where it's not just that you have your schedule, you have to deal with traffic.
Yeah, like I would say the metroplex of Seattle-Tacoma is not that big as compared to, I used to live in Dallas, and that is a huge metroplex. I mean, you're talking 100 square miles plus.
Yeah.
But yeah, the traffic that you have to deal with can be extremely unpredictable, which we had a couple of incidents where people weren't able to make it on time, and like we of course understand, because it's nothing you can really do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I mean, even within our rehearsal process, which we'll talk a little bit more in depth as this episode goes on, sometimes because of things like that, you have to move things around. And, we just realized that not all rehearsals needed to be what we planned out. Like, there's that whole point of diminishing returns on a rehearsal. It's like, well, we said it was going to be X amount long, but all we can really do is, maybe 80% of it. I'm like, okay, we'll come back later and be better at, instead of pounding it into the ground and not really going anywhere. But hey, we went that full time that we allotted. So
yeah, it all worked out.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to do our production in August, and we had to push it back to September as our tenor that we had cast had another production come up. I don't know if it was like a jump-in situation or what, but so we were like, okay, we can accommodate. That's something that isn't a big deal, because we hadn't officially announced dates or anything yet when Winnie approached us.
Yeah, we were literally about to sign the paperwork for the main venue that we were going to do. Like, we had 3 performances, 2 of which were one was at Rachel's house and another one was at a friend of Rachel's house. So those were, you can easily move those around versus you're paying to have a specific space. And actually it ended up being better for us because the venue that we were going to go with, which is one that Rachel and I did Don Giovanni a long time ago, and they ended up, because we had to switch it, they didn't have it available, but the venue that we did get had much more to offer. Like, they did the live stream instead of us having to deal with it.
Yep.
So it's just a win-win, even though at the time it's like, okay, here we go. How do we get this, to happen and not have to wait even longer,
Yeah, exactly. I'd say that was the largest challenging of organization. Otherwise, I think things went really well. Everybody was able to learn the staging in the 2 weeks of staging rehearsals we had. I think perhaps maybe one more musical run through would have been nice.
Mm-hmm.
Either at the beginning of the process or like a musical. I mean, we did do a musical review, I guess. We did have one rehearsal where we did that. That was at Luke's church.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I think that all went well. I guess kind of, booking venues, figuring out what dates/times would work well. And I think we decided that Sunday would have been a better day to do the show at my place because we've done shows on Sundays before and they were well attended. So this kind of falls into somewhat marketing too. And we did remind me, was it a Friday or a Saturday for I think it was a Friday, at the Seattle Drum School, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
I think that one worked well. And then Ellen's house was a Sunday.
A matinee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Saturdays are weird here, I'd say, in Seattle. I feel like people really want to do like hiking activities and stuff, or they don't tend to go to events on Saturdays. And I feel the same way. Yeah. I either am going to go on a Friday night or I'm probably going to go to a matinee.
Yeah, that makes sense. And with this part, especially that time of year, September, there's still a lot of stuff to do outdoors. And people just got done with their rough week the night before. And like, I just want to not do anything. Yep. So yeah, they're going to be outside doing stuff versus going to a show.
I felt like organization it took us a little bit to find a outside venue, but I don't feel like the organization of that was incredibly challenging. I felt like that all went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, and I mean, because we did push it back, September can be also a weird month weather-wise. Yes. And so it's like
we got lucky.
Yeah, we really did get lucky. Unlike if you followed this whole process, our last fundraiser, which was in May, it should have been decent weather, but it poured like crazy.
Yep. I think that covers everything with organization. What do we want to talk about next?
I think the rehearsal process. I always enjoy the rehearsal process in projects like this because it's smaller. This is going to sound awful, but I'm going to say it anyway. I kind of like being in charge for the most part instead of having somebody tell me what to do and stage it within an inch of its life.
Yeah, no one wants to be micromanaged.
No, I really get annoyed by that.
It honestly, as an artist, I feel like it really kills your like motivation to do anything artistically interesting because you're just worried about whether the person in charge is going to agree.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't experiment as much.
Yeah, and the thing is in every single space we were going to perform in, it's a different layout. Yeah, we had basic set pieces, but you got to deal with space stuff. Like the Seattle Drum School was very cramped in comparison to the other venues. At your house, we had multiple levels.
Yep.
And so it was really fun also to work with Rob and Ivy, who are really, really good performers, great colleagues, Luke also. And one of the things that I found interesting, I can't remember if we talked about this at the time, not only is Rob a great singer, great actor, Nemorino is in his wheelhouse. Like he's like the perfect Nemorino. But one of the things I found great about working with him is that, like, I came with ideas of what the staging generally would be, but I'm very much like, make it look natural. I'm not going to tell you what to do. If this feels natural, go for it. We'll let you know if it,
if it looks awkward. Yeah.
Or if it's just not working. And so Rob also came with great ideas. And then from a stylistic standpoint, because that's also his wheelhouse when it comes to rep, there are things in the libretto and in the music that I wrote that he did not either sing at all word wise, or he tweaked it to be more stylistically correct word-wise. Yeah. And now I could have been a stickler about that. I was like, well, one, what I wrote is fine because this is a modern adaptation. And it's also a completely, like, it's not a Romance language, English isn't, versus the Italian. So there's going to be just weird things anyway. It was, at least for me, knowing what I know of the style, it was also musically and stylistically satisfying to hear what he did, and let's just be clear, anything that he changed was not like 180 degrees from what I was trying to say.
No. It was just like you're having a conversation with somebody, and let's say you're talking about idea, and you choose a word, but then somebody else says, well, what about this? And you're like, yes, that fits better. Or I didn't think about that. I like the way that sounds.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is how can we make this the most engaging show that we can while also making it as easy as possible for everybody trying to do this thing. Like, I've thought a lot about this a lot. Opera is impossible. Like, if you really think about it, you're trying to combine
the level
all
of
of these different
collaboration
things.
that has to happen.
Yeah, and like trying to tell these stories, especially if you're doing it in a language that's not yours, which of course that's not the case with this show, and trying to get audiences to really buy into it, it's almost an impossible feat. So the fact that opera companies are even still able to do it in the age of, all the Netflix, Hulu, and all that stuff, it's just amazing. I felt that our cast really did well working together, working through the issues.
Yeah,
and so I really had a great time.
We talked about Rob, the things that Ivy brought to the table, the way that she was able to play off of things that largely Rob handed to her in an acting situation, and also the way that she approached her character. I really loved the nuances that she brought.
I really tried to make Adina not just a confident woman or whatever, and the girl that test. Every dude wants, but yes, yeah, exactly. Modern women are not like the women in the time that this was written.
Sure.
Like, our social norms and how men and women interact is very different. And so making her relatable while also, like, I sometimes, nobody's said anything yet, but I'm sure they've thought it because I probably would have thought it too. It's like, who is this dude thinking he can, like, write for a woman? Like, that whole idea. And so I feel that between what I did write and the touches that Ivy brought to it, I think she really sang it, not only sang it well, but portrayed it the way that I envisioned it. And so that's always great too.
Okay. So that kind of covers rehearsing. I feel like we kind of touched on casting before in an episode. The way we did it, we had people send us videos, and then we invited people to audition. And I think the biggest challenge was finding an available accompanist for our auditions. And we actually ended up not being able to find somebody. So I played for the auditions, and I am not a pianist. I made it happen.
Crushed it. I mean, you.
I played some chords and mostly bass line. But that's right. We We actually had to change our audition dates because one of our candidates got COVID. Remember that? That's definitely something.
Oh,
that
yeah, that's right.
we really had the freedom to choose, and we only had a couple people that we invited to do auditions, so we had the freedom to change dates. And
Yeah.
this area, Seattle, is, if you're a pianist and you're looking for somewhere to move and make good money, there are lots of opportunities for pianists here, and we do not have enough pianists.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, and it seems like a lot of our really good ones either are super busy because they're affiliated with the UW, the University of Washington.
Or they work at a church.
Yeah, or one of the people that before I went to New York in 2018, the one that we used to use a lot for stuff, she's now one of the main people, as I understand, at Fifth Avenue Theater, which is the big musical theater company.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so she's always busy.
Yep.
So yeah, there's definitely opportunities. So pianists, come move. The Pacific Northwest is great.
I don't feel like casting was difficult for us. I feel like we had a really clear idea of what we were looking for. There were several artists that we were interested in, and it just came down to who was available.
Yeah. Like when we got all of the people's submissions and all that, and we kind of narrowed it down, not to like our final list of the people we were going to contact, but like people who are sort of in the realm of possibility. There's a lot of great singers on that list.
Yep.
The point of that is the future is bright when it comes to having sopranos to ask to see if they want to do stuff. So
The next major thing is fundraising.
emphasis on fun, right?
Yes, it's fun when you first start, and it's taxing.
Yeah. Now, we've talked quite a bit about part of our problem is that we aren't a 501c3 yet. That is coming here in this coming year, because then we would have a lot more access to funds. I agree. It's kind of like our thing with fundraising. If you really think about it, it's kind of like a relationship. At first, it's all exciting, it's new, it's shiny, it's minty, and then it just drags along, and pretty much you're yelling at each other all the time. Why aren't you ever there?
Yeah.
You don't give me what I need. Rachel and I, we've been artists for a long time. And so, like, you have to thread that needle of not being annoying on social media while also trying to get people to spend their hard-earned cash for something. And we did have a lot of really great donations from many people, some of which kind of came out of the woodwork. You know, you have like friends you haven't really talked to in a long time, then all of a sudden, boom, they put money in your thing. Yeah. That was also really cool.
Yeah, I think we had between 20 and 30 different people who donated. We had some big donors that gave a good portion of money, and they wish to remain anonymous, so I will leave that to them. We originally set a goal of $10,000. We made it halfway there. We didn't want to kind of extend our fundraising too long, because it was about a year from the time that we announced we were going to do a show. But I don't think we started fundraising right away.
No.
I think it was a couple months, so it was probably about 9 months of fundraising.
Yeah, and also we, at the time, were an unknown entity. I mean, Rachel and I are not unknown in the area, but us working together like we are, it's a new thing.
Yeah, building a awareness, that community engagement that has to happen in order to seek funds, and relationship building, all of that. It's work. I mean, this is people's full-time. People do this full-time for institutions, right? And we're two individuals who have full-time jobs also doing this. So,
and don't have marketing degrees either.
Right,
so
right. Yeah, and really fundraising and marketing go hand in hand. So there's probably things that would definitely change strategies. And it's, unfortunately, when you're working with any sort of online platform, the algorithms are always changing. And I think that was something that was really challenging to try and learn and keep up with.
The fact that it's ever changing, it's like, well, we knew this worked or we know that it worked this time before, but now it's not working. And,
Yeah.
you can scratch your brain all day.
Yeah, I think I had more success just, working personal network and going for fundraising that way than trying to reach into the ether and get people who don't know us or just follow us on social media to donate.
Yeah, well, a new day is coming, as they say.
And we tried merch, and that actually went nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I got a cool tumbler out of it.
No one purchased the merch, which is something to learn. And, perhaps it's just the level of following we have is not strong enough yet.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm unoffended, just so you know. If you didn't buy the merch, I'm not hurt. I get it.
Yeah. I still think, though, moving forward, if we have big donors, little things like that, that's just a little added bonus. So,
yeah. So that's how fundraising went. Overall successful. We were able to pay everyone a fair wage.
yeah.
And that was,
Which was the whole point.
A major goal that we had was to reach the level of living wage, and that's part of the reason we kept the rehearsal process so neat and tidy, as I'll say.
I think that is not only a worthy goal and really something that we're going to do with every show, but we could have had this show done a long time before it actually did if we didn't have that as a goal. We know enough people that either are just looking for anything to do, to look, I'll take a smaller paycheck because this role is on my list of things I should learn, even though, yes, it's not in the original language, but whatever. We could have done that, but that just perpetuates a stereotype and a systematic approach in our industry that we are trying to not do anymore.
Yeah, we're trying to end exploitation.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not the only people that are trying to do this.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
More people our age are coming into the leadership ranks of companies. It's going to change. It's going to take time.
I think that just leaves marketing.
Yeah, and we kind of touched on that. It's just a really tricky thing. And, Rachel's partner helped us with some stuff, all that. But that's another beast that we are going to be tackling as we move forward.
Yeah, we'll have to put our learning hats on and really go to school, do some marketing workshops.
Yeah.
We knew who our target market was.
Mm-hmm.
We were experimenting with different forms of communication, using social media, using email, personal conversations, all these different ways that you can connect with people in order to get the word out about your shows, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing we didn't do is hypnosis, and maybe that was our problem. You will buy tickets to the show, yes. I don't know.
We were still dealing with COVID. I mean, that to the extent that we were dealing with it, people were still in the Seattle area, especially wary about going to public events.
Yeah, every day that passes, that gets a little bit less and less. So,
right. Oh, I mean, I've been to several shows since we did ours, and I mean, I have to tell you, very few people are wearing masks now. So I think things have mostly moved back to normal, and people are going. I mean, I went to Tristan and Isolde at Seattle Opera, and I would say it was at least 80% full. I went on opening night, and there were people wearing masks. I was wearing a mask. A couple people around me were wearing masks, but not everybody was wearing a mask.
mm-hmm.
And it was no longer a requirement of the venue. So, and then I went and saw The Wiz at the 5th 2 weeks ago, I guess. Great show. I was very impressed. Loved it. And I could probably count on my two hands how many people were wearing masks. But when we were doing the show, we only had one indoor venue. And I don't think masking was required. I think it was optional.
Yeah, it was optional.
But I just think the number of people who were concerned about the risks impacted our attendance.
Yeah, I think so.
And hopefully, going forward, we'll just be able to, I think, being able to market much in a more extended fashion too probably would have helped.
Yeah. Yeah. If we would have had a little bit more lead time when because everything was shored up, that would have been a lot more effective.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
But, that's just, we're laying out the challenges that we faced. These are things that we can learn from and hopefully have sold out shows next time. That's our goal. We want sold out shows.
Yeah. Every single one of them.
Yes.
They're going to be beaten down the door to get in. And unfortunately, our huge bouncers are going to have to push them back,
Yeah. Because I felt like our ticket pricing was good. Oh, we did live streaming, on the first show, and we had actually pretty good attendance, I'd say, for live streaming.
Yeah, didn't we have like 30 or 40, something like that?
I'd have to double check, but great turnout for live stream. So that worked for us, actually.
I think definitely having that as an option for every show we do is incredibly important because, well, one, I would say it's easier to make money that way because people don't have to do anything except plop themselves in front of their screen, whatever it's being put on, instead of, dressing up and whatnot.
Well, it's just it's another level of accessibility, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, yeah, I think that it's definitely, I never would have really considered that for as small of a project, not to say that our project is small, quote unquote, but like local do-it-yourself kind of production instead of with an actual company.
Yep.
I never would have considered that ever if it wasn't for COVID and being forced to have everybody do that essentially and learning how to do it. So
that kind of wraps up our process. I'd say overall we had a very positive experience with some challenges that we will be learning from, and as we go forward into our next projects, which we are discussing future shows. First, obviously, getting our 501c3 all organized and put together will make funding easier, not only because people are more willing to give money if it's tax deductible and it's a more formal institution that they can have accountability and accreditation for, but that also allows you to have access to more grant money.
Yeah, some of the shows that we're looking at, either the way that we're doing it or the specific story that we that's just there may be specific grants that want to focus those kinds of stories being told. So I think that that's going to be a huge thing for us. And either way, we have great ideas that we are ruminating over. And thankfully, we have a lot of really great singers in the area. So I think, number one, stay tuned for when it's announced.
Yes.
There's other companies in the area that are starting to have new futures too. So I think that the Seattle area is really going to be in a much better place, say 2 years from now, than it was the year before COVID.
Yeah, and we've definitely talked about the possibility of doing collaborations with other organizations.
Yeah,
because I think that the more collaboration we do within our own industry, it's only going to build more strength for all of us.
Yeah, and when you collaborate, it tends to cut down on cost. Also, depending on how you're doing it.
It's so interesting when you look at the history of opera, especially in the United States. I think I've touched on this before, but when opera came to the U.S., it was traveling tours like we see with musical theater. You had troops of singers who would put on concerts or, small operas in different performing venues, and they would just travel around to different cities. Because there wasn't set the tradition of having an opera house was not really a thing that was brought to our country from the beginning, and part of that has to do with prohibition of opera for a good I'd say like 60 or 70 years, not quite 100. This idea, of having a traveling show. I mean, we see it with school tours, obviously. That's something that happens, but And it does happen at large companies. Large companies we're all going to pay to have this production made, like to have the sets and the costumes
Yeah.
made. We're all going to share that cost, and then we're going to do the show. It's usually doesn't end up in the same season, right? It might.
Yeah.
You'll see the same production travel around to 3 or 4 different companies at the large state. Yeah, that cost sharing endeavor reduces the impact that it has on your singular budget. And yeah, that's and also you're, especially as you're talking about like having the same cast, you're exposing your region to these artists. You're saying like, hey, these are local artists, and not only can you see them here, but you can also see them here, and you can see them here.
Yeah, exactly. And my main thing also with talking about is like, you're not competing for the same audience, like at all.
No, absolutely not.
So it's a win-win for everybody. And I like win-wins.
Well, and the whole idea of like really competing with other companies in the same region, honestly, like your target market's probably different.
Yeah.
Shotgun or spaghetti on the wall just doesn't work that well.
No, it doesn't. But I mean, that's what's really great about what we do, is that we are doing that at all. We are very targeted. And we're targeting a market that most companies kind of like, meh, if we get them, cool.
Yeah.
Sure. They're like young. Like there's lots of them. They're not, generally speaking, dying off anytime soon. Not to be crass, but like they're not. So get them now, and then when they are the age bracket that other people go through, they'll have so much. Their roots will be so deep.
Yes.
In opera that they're going to.
Yeah, they'll have a nurtured relationship with opera. So. Yeah, that's what's going on, and life has been a little hectic for both Mike and I, so that's why it's been a little while since we've done a podcast. We're trying to come up with a plan to get regular podcasting back to you. We don't want you to feel neglected. Life happens, and sometimes you have to step away from certain things, and for both of us, that was kind of podcasting.
But we also know that all of you know that your heart has grown so much fonder of us because our absence has been away. I can't even do that I can't do it with a straight face. We do understand that the regularness of the podcast does help in its success in many different ways. And so, it's just one of those things where now that we are through, especially the holiday season, pretty much. It's Christmas Eve when we're recording this.
Yep.
A lot more time.
Yeah. I had projects, and then I took on a new teaching gigs. Time is busy. I don't have much free time. And I mean, I do for the next couple months, sort of. I don't have a performance until March, unless one pops up. Then I'm busy March, April, May, possibly June, July. Nothing in August, September, October. I'm available for Messiahs when the next November, December rolls around, just so you know.
Yeah. Me too. Man, I haven't done Messiah since 2019. I love that piece.
Yeah, I did one right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
It was my last
Actually, me too.
Messiah. But it was kind of nice. I told everybody, like, a lot of our colleagues are doing multiple sizes, and I was like, honestly, I was kind of glad I didn't do one this year.
Yeah.
I had so much other stuff going on. It was really nice to not have that stress.
Yeah. The last one I did, I was still in New York at the time. I did 2 in the span of 2 weeks, but one of them was and not many people get to perform at this place. It was at the West Point Chapel,
nice.
Like the Military Academy Chapel. It's like from the 1800s, like all stone. It was really cool. Definitely that. I love Handel, but yeah, I love that stuff. It just needs to be done more. I mean, everybody knows Messiah, so it's like if you like the music of Messiah, just generally speaking, then you should love all of Handel's stuff because it all sounds the same.
Oh, don't say that.
It doesn't all sound the same, but when you hear a Handel piece versus a Bach piece,
markers.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that's cool about people like Bach and Handel is that they have like solo cantatas and
That concludes our discussion of putting on your own event or project. It can be really rewarding. It may seem like a very large mountain that you have to climb, but if you have several colleagues that you would like to collaborate with, put together a plan. Get the organization part done, look at your funding resources, and go for it.
Yeah, totally. And you don't have to start at something as big as what Rachel and I did.
Yeah,
like
could
just
be
putting
concert
on your
at first.
I don't know if you're like me, but again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's not that I'm a control freak, but it's a lot better to do music that you want to do.
Yep.
Organize your own stuff.
Very artistically rewarding to be at the helm of what you get to sing artistically, what you find fulfilling, what speaks to you, or what you think will speak to other people. I mean, that's really this is what I tell all my students. They're worried about being nervous, and I'm like, change the mindset. Think about it as, I really love this music, and I want to share it with you because I think you'll love it too.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. Because there's a lot of music out there, number one. Mm-hmm. But number two, especially some of the stuff that I do in my recital work, like I submitted a program to one of the concert series in town, and it's got the Kindertotenlieder, which is the songs about dead children. Mm-hmm. The Roram War scenes, which is Walt Whitman describing the Civil War. It's pretty graphic. The Don Quixote, or Don Quixote ones by Ravel, and then the Vaughan Williams songs of travel. So it's like,
okay,
these are things that speak to me, and a lot of people are like, wait, you want to talk about, like, it literally says in the war scenes, like, his head is blown off, or the mother yelling at the father for letting the kids go out in the middle of a storm, and now they're dead. And then at the end, it's like them going up to heaven. Yeah. This sounds very crazy. Like, why would you want to put on a program like that? I'm like, because there are people in that audience that are going to relate to that message. Yeah. I am just the messenger. Don't be afraid.
Thanks for listening to this podcast episode. For more information about the podcast or for extras, check out our Patreon page, www.patreon.com/operaunbound. Ciao.